Hey, welcome to The Boost, conversations with people promoting mental health. And I'm so glad to be here with my co-host, Sarah Way, and with our guest, Nathan Morgan. How are you both doing today?
I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
Yeah,
I can't wait to
thanks.
hear more about Nathan.
I'm
Thanks for having
excited
us.
too. I'm excited too. So Nathan, as you know, we get started in a pretty fun little way here. So we do the virtual hug and the shameless plug right off the bat. The virtual hug is if you would tell us somebody or something you're grateful for today.
Somebody or something that I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful for my wife, who has been paving the way and doing a lot of hard work on herself, and that's kind of basically inspired me to be doing more work on myself.
Beautiful.
Does that count? Can we say that?
No, it doesn't actually.
Okay, good.
Totally. I mean, yes.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous. And thanks for sharing it, because that's also very personal.
A lot of people say that like behind every man, blah 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 blah, but it's really in front of, right?
Yes,
I believe
that's
it's
the way it
like
should
in
be.
front of every man who's doing something. There was a woman blazing the trail, making time, et cetera, in some scenarios.
Yeah, and I think it goes every way. Yeah, for every person to have, support and somebody who sees you unconditionally, unconditional love, those kinds of things, like that's the difference maker.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, it's the most common answer to the virtual hug.
I was
It
going to
is.
say, I love that. It is so sweet
So
to hear
I don't
women
like
talk
being
about
cliche.
In fact, I was driving in and I thought, I bet I know what Nathan's going to say, because I watch your content, and this isn't the first time I've heard you say similar things
Yeah.
on some of your posts, but
Cool.
yeah, very
Thanks.
cool. Well, give us the shameless plug, Morgan Visual Productions. Tell us what you do.
Yeah. So we have a production company. We do branded content, so branded photos, video, and the thing that really lights me up the most lately is brand identity conversations. So a lot of people will come to us and say, hey, we need photos for our event. Hey, we need portraits of our people. Hey, we need videos from our conference. And we love to help with that. And what question sometimes people don't know is like, well, what are we going to do with it? Where's it going to go? Why does it matter? And so helping people reconnect to the like, why do we do what we do? We spend so much time and energy on it. And until you can kind of feel it, hear, and articulate it. So helping people simplify their why and then amplify and magnify their ROI, their return on impact. And if founders reconnect to like why they do what they do, right? They reconnect to their passion, to their purpose. And then the team can understand that, oh, what I'm doing actually makes a difference. I can see how my work matters. And then customers get a sense that, oh, I deserve the best and I can get it when I work with Steve and Sarah. Did I get your name right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
That's a great question, because you guys just met.
Okay, good.
Just me.
Okay, so return on impact and your why. So let's go into it with why did you start Morgan Visual Productions? And I have to say, just as a precursor to that, I loved hearing your interview with TJ Walsh on LinkedIn. It was like a LinkedIn live stream. You guys went for 40, 50 minutes, and you got quite a bit into why you're a little bit more open to tell your story these days, but you make incredible stories for people come to life. And I know that from experience, because in 2022 at my conference, you were there getting footage and photography, and we were a little bit of a home-rolled kind of, scrappy conference, and we wanted to grow up, and you helped us grow up, because the next year we used that sizzle reel in all of our marketing, and it looked so amazing. It made us look so good online.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. So
Thanks
tell
for
us your
sharing that.
why.
Yeah. So, I have a background in photojournalism. And if you go all the way back, right, to my origin story, right, I grew up with, a divorced family.
Okay.
Okay, we're just going to go here.
Let's
right?
go here.
Let's go here.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
So, yeah, we're being real.
comfortable.
So, because that's right, what we do, what I do, right? There's past that led to me to this moment. So, image management was kind of a part of my world. So I became a photographer, and I had very inquisitive parents. So I love asking questions, right? And I saw this rupture happen in my family, and I became the peacekeeper. And I wanted to build bridges. And so that is really if we want to say, why did I really start Morgan Visual Productions, it goes back to that. So I started as a photographer.
Yeah.
I started taking pictures of people, helping people see that, like, look at this photo of yourself, you're amazing. And let me
But
ask
also look at your body language. Like it's like a shield or something. You're like, hey,
This-
this
yes,
out here is
yes.
where you can access me, which is your
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
or
so
something.
so that's a great point. So we just have brought up this lately, is that a mask, for me, that I'm not aware of, can be, I'm really good at asking questions, which means you don't get to ask me questions, right?
And what my therapist said was the mask is the opposite of the face.
Yeah.
You know, so you see the Halloween mask and then you pull it off and it's the little kiddo inside.
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
the mask is like the protection.
And
Do you feel like you ask the questions to keep people from asking you the
100%.
questions?
Yeah,
Like
100%.
a hiding.
100%. And but questions, when people start to share, right, they get reconnected to their humanity. We get reconnected to, like, oh, we actually have more in common than I realized, which brings me deep joy, right? Restorative work, restorative content. And then on the portrait side of things, right, like I want to make people, it used to be want to make people look their best. And to look your best, you have to feel the best. And so, right, but I realized that it's a little bit more difficult when the cameras are all turned back on me. Sorry, I kind of went through a long, circuitous journey of why I started, but
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I've never really answered it that way before. So if you want to ask it again,
No.
if you need a
that's-
clarification.
I think that's ideal. I think there's another aspect of the image creation or the image polishing. It's like you want everyone to look their best, which also means there can be no dark side. You know, there's only bright side. There's only good things. And to be able to say, I like bad things. I
Yeah.
have a dark side
I have a dark
is
side.
like actually some form of maturation.
Yeah. And so now, right, instead of just wanting people to project this perfectly polished image or mask, I'm like, hey, what if you started sharing your story consistently with your phone, and you just started to talk about yourself and why you do what you do? And that conversation is really kind of what's lighting me up a lot lately.
I'm reading Alfred Adler is his
Cool.
name. He's kind of in the Carl Jung, Freud
Big
time
Carl
frame,
fan,
it feels
yeah.
like. And Adler talks a lot about the courage to be disliked is freedom. And so the fear of telling our stories, which I can relate to, I was the youngest of four, grew up below the poverty line, you know, in a place where at some point you make this deal with your parents and maybe the devil. There's a lot of negotiation happening where you're like, I'm going to be a good boy because it's obvious. Like the incentive structures and the power struggle, the power structures are there. But then part of what I was listening to you say just now and then talking to TJ on LinkedIn was you got more comfortable telling your story, which is a courage. You know, even if you do have the fear, the courage is the action of telling that story. So you'll just pull up your phone and you talk about rollerblading and, you know, you talk about listening to music and you talk about some real stuff. Like, you know, you get into it.
Yeah. It's so awesome that you said freedom, because literally I just had lunch with a director of photography friend of mine. We've done a lot of work together, and he was sharing his story before I started sharing mine, and I was really like inspired and attracted to that creative energy, and I was like,
Always.
what's that about? I was like, maybe I could do that one right? And so I asked him, I was like, what's your advice? And I literally just posted this 30 minutes ago and tagged you, and I was like, what's your advice to people who are struggling sharing their own story? And he's like, it's so freeing. And it's like, it's as much for you as it is for anybody else. And that's been my experience, right? Like, there's this liberating aspect of like, hey, this is who I am. It's unpolished. It's not perfect. It's not all produced, et cetera, et cetera. And there's still a time and a place, right? Like our websites, our conference content, some of those things need to be buttoned up a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
And yet there's this desire, I think, right, to be known and to understand others in an honest, intimate way. And so, yeah, that's been a big part of my journey the last 2 years. As a professional storyteller, it was really hard for me to tell my own story, right? I feel like for most of us, the thing that we do professionally is the hardest to do for ourselves or to receive, And so I was just having this conversation yesterday, with a mental health marketer who has helps with websites. And we were saying, I would imagine it's difficult for those in the mental health space to get comfortable sharing candidly and freely about their stories because there's so many other important things to talk about.
Mm.
Yeah, and where do you find that line of like, what do you want to share and what do you not? Because once you share, it's out there in the open. So like having that conversation with yourself ahead of time of like, where is that line for me?
Yeah.
Is important.
So I realize I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole, but I would love to come back to that at some point when you think it's appropriate in terms of, helping people see that like by sharing your own story, you're actually serving your clients. And you're serving your customers because you're helping them see that, oh, this person could help me. I could get help. I found somebody who can help me, right?
Yeah. I want to point out too that it's nice that you ask the questions because some people they don't know how to share their story or they don't know how to start the conversation. And I think it's a blessing when you have those friends in your life or colleagues that like know how to ask the right questions because it helps you kind of figure it out, Like you're saying you came from a family where everyone was kind of asking all the questions. And from my experience, I feel like I came from a space where it was like it's impolite to ask too many questions.
Oh.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So
well, my mother, she was given a hard time for how she would ask questions all the time. But you're like, I appreciate that you kind of see the positive side of that.
Yeah, it is. Those are my favorite friends, the ones that like haul the questions
And
out of
mine
you.
too. Like, give me a curious person,
Yeah.
and like we can talk forever.
And mental health, talking about that, it's like that's what makes people want to talk about mental health and get like help that they need. And if they're like hiding it, you need someone to bring it out and talk about it.
So that's kind of what we do on sets on good days is we're creating safety in the same way that like a therapist is trying to create safety.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree, Sarah, that like even our theme for the conference this year, the Mental Health Marketing Conference, is unmasking. Which is, it's cool. And if you split those into three parts, that word, the middle one is ask. And I was hesitant about that for a long time because I don't need people to feel like, oh, I need to unmask everything all the time to everyone. Like you can have a lockbox, you can have a safe, and that's to keep things safe. And here we are in Mental Health Awareness Month in May, and looking at the culture right now around mental health awareness compared to 5 years ago is so different.
Vastly different.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Right. And having different ways, like unmasking the people you trust is very different than unmasking to maybe social media where it's a mass of people that you don't even know. And that's also something that I'd love to hear from you about is like how to navigate the social media of like how to tell your story online without like, I guess crossing any lines, I guess, or oversharing someone's story.
I'm still figuring that out. I don't know. I have some vulnerability hangovers from time to time.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, oh, did I just share too much? Or, oh, was I too honest? Or, oh, did I need to scale that back? Or, oh, did I just like lose a client because I said such and such? So I'm still trying to figure that line out. I've heard something along the lines of, maybe it's a Brene Brown where it's like, is it an open wound or is it a scar? Is it starting to scab up? And then maybe we can talk about it, or it's still fresh. But I'm trying to like step into an environment of like sharing the type of vulnerably in a vulnerable way where it's like, this is the kind of vulnerability that I want to see out on social media, right? Like, and so I feel like LinkedIn has been a fun place because so many people are very buttoned up in that environment. Yeah. And yet it's such a great space for us to have some honest conversations because we're no longer in the season where work and personal and professional can't be siloed anymore, right? Like, I mean, they could be for some people, but like that doesn't exist for me anymore. Like I have had to integrate them.
Yeah.
Right. And so if that's the case, then can we be our full, honest, authentic selves on social as we are in person? And doesn't that help everybody?
I mean, it helps trust for sure. If you meet someone and you feel like you know them, and then there's someone, you see them being someone else online, you see it as phony. So you want to see, I mean, the best professionals are the people who are themselves in their work, because if you're putting on a show, you're probably not going to do your best work.
Yeah. And if you're putting on a show, maybe that's like what you need to do, but I'd prefer to like interact with people who aren't putting on shows.
Absolutely.
in a perfect world.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we work with humans. That's
Yeah.
what the decisions we make is, are these people I want to do business with? You know,
Yeah.
it's not the company. Although the brand is that polish, you know, it's like it's the lipstick and it's the outfit of the company that hopefully signals a promise to what it might be like to work with the company, but it's the people inside.
Mm-hmm.
And how do they treat you? How do they communicate? It's like the blocking and tackling of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back with more from Nathan Morgan. At Term Productions, we craft experiences that connect, engage, and inspire. From dynamic conferences to powerful storytelling, we bring ideas to life through planning, production, and promotion, so your audience doesn't just listen, they remember. Ready to make an impact? Let's build something unforgettable together. Visit turn.productions to get started. All right, we're back with more from Nathan Morgan. And Nathan, in the break, something I was thinking about was you make it, I'm so comfortable talking with you. You are yourself. We were just talking about that. And you pull stories out of people, or you give them a space to feel safe to tell their story. Tell us more about how you do that for someone, because there's always, or oftentimes probably, some nerves and, you know, am I going to get it right? Tell us about how you do that.
The first thing that comes to mind without overthinking it, right, is that we try to have like the people on our crew all be safe humans. You know what I mean? Because basically we're trying to have like a room full of advocates. Because if you're going to get honest with us and share your story, or if you're going to have your picture made by a total stranger, you know what I mean? Like, you hope that you can trust them and that they're kind,
Yeah.
that they're going to ask you some questions and that they're going to have your best interest in mind, right? And so emotional intelligence and empathy
Mm-hmm.
and curiosity are like foundational for us in terms of like core values. And like I don't insist that everybody does therapy on my team, but
it's
let's just
helpful.
say that most of them do. And if they didn't come having done therapy, not so much because of me, but hopefully along the way, like we've had lots of people who are like, okay, yeah, I think maybe I do need some help.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe they hear about how many therapy sessions I went to in the last week, and they're like, well, maybe there's something there.
I've heard you say this openly in the public online, so I don't think I'm talking out of school, but yeah, you go to therapy. I mean, you've found
I
it
had
to be
3
beneficial.
sessions this week: couples therapy, individual therapy, and group
Nice.
therapy, which is not every week, but it's like,
I mean, everybody can benefit from therapy. It's not like
yeah,
it's not like you're going to go and waste your time. You're always going to get something out of it.
yeah,
So that's awesome.
yeah, big fan.
Mhm.
Thankful for it. And that's actually how I shifted from doing photography back into video.
What do you mean?
So there's a therapist, family therapist here in Franklin called Connection Codes, Glenn and Phyllis Hill, Tara Wages. Big fan. You should totally have Tara on this
Sure,
conversation.
I'd love to.
Yeah. And we were doing family therapy for a little while and then paused. And then during the pandemic, I was like, man, everybody is drowning to the left and the right? And I was like, they needed your webinar and they needed it yesterday, but your webinar doesn't look so good. Can I help make it look a little bit better? And that kind of got my heart beating again for video and kind of getting into the nuance of stories and getting to hear people. And yeah, it helped me. And then it gave me the capacity to go out on my own. So that before that, I was with the Nashville Business Journal for 7 years.
Oh, really?
And then my wife
Okay.
and I, were like, hey, if we're going to do this thing, we might need to have some more foundational support. And so we did some work on ourselves and together and then launched. And so just eternally grateful for those in this space. 2 years ago, I've shared that I went to a 2-week inpatient program in the middle of the woods in Kentucky at a place called The Bridge. And went there for codependency and workaholism. And I'm an adult child of an alcoholic. And, it was like a 1-degree trajectory shift, right? If I was like nose diving, it just took like a slight, subtle shift to kind of help me come out of that pit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 2 years ago. And, yeah, so thankful for everybody who's, continuing to try to show up to make space for
And
growth.
you said that program was basically we should just roll TJ's conversation with you is what we should do. We should just have that cut in. But you said it was like codependency is an external seeking for an internal.
Nice. It's external reach for internal security.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the simplest definition. And so for me, that was like, performance, perfection, people pleasing.
Yeah.
And instead of pausing to rest, instead of pausing to play, instead of just being present.
Yeah. I mean, people pleasing is, I've been there. I do that. I've done that a lot. Youngest of 4, I watched a lot of kind of chaos and tension, watched a lot of it in the family dynamic system that we had. And so I could see how, codependency or a lack of freedom or a fear driver could lead to this seeking outward validation or something like that. Is that a little bit of your experience too, or would you say it differently?
No, I think, so in growing up, this just came up in the course that TJ and I did last night. We were talking about masks, so it's cool that the conference is on masking this year. But, one of my masks was to basically, like, I didn't have space to be sad. Didn't have space to be scared as much, right? Because I was many times being the adult in the room or trying to be the peacekeeper, and because our parents were doing the best that they could with the tools that they had at the time.
Yeah, but there's also a vacuum.
Yep.
And something's going to fill that vacuum.
Yep. And so frequently it was like going to everybody else for like, wait, is there something in here? Right. So I think over the last 2 years, I've been starting to fill that cup, and I think you're getting to experience, a more grounded version, a slightly more embodied version of me than I was 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, for sure. Definitely when we did that conference. I mean, when was that? That was like 2.5 years ago, right? I think that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was in fall 22.
Fall 22. Yeah. So I went in the January of 2023.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did notice you stepped away from socials and things like that.
Yeah. Well, and socials, I was like, I didn't, that was part of my journey, was like, as a storyteller, I was happy for you to share your story and happy to make sure that you looked good on your photos, but like, let's not go looking at myself. Right. And I realized like that sharing my own story was really therapeutic for me.
So I've been doing this thing. I've been writing down my childhood memoirs.
Wow.
Or I'm calling it a memoir. I don't know if it's going to turn into a book ever.
In the notes section of your phone.
Yes. It's
That's
very
where
much
everything goes to die. It's
Yeah.
like
very
we need
much-
an actual app for like memoir writing.
it's very much in the notes, and it's getting very long because I just started with a simple phrase. I have it titled, I talk about the guacamole green 3-bedroom house that the 6 of us lived in Northern California. And then I'll just, like, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll just bullet point at the end of my writing. I'll bullet point the ideas that come to mind. So it could be the games we played or the injuries we had or the friendships we had. And it's like I'm just grasping through that junk drawer that everybody has in their house, where it's like,
I know the junk drawer.
there's like bills, there's
Might have
phone
3 of them, but-
chargers.
Me too.
Yeah. There's like a screw that you've
It's
held
like
on
in your
to.
brain, the junk drawer of your brain.
It's
all
the
these-
junk drawer in my
Yeah.
brain. And I can't unpack it all at once. And I started to worry, like, there's maybe not much material here. Well, there is a lot
There's
of
a
material
lot,
there.
yeah.
It's
Well, and your brain's unpacking it as something relates to it, probably. So while you're thinking of that, maybe it has to do with something that you're experiencing now and how interesting. Maybe you keep a timeline of when you think of them too.
Oh.
Instead of trying to put it in order of how your brain brought it back to you.
Just right, the next thing next. I am definitely going through something, and yeah, it has to do with like internal family dynamics. And I'm at the age there's the stage in my life where I am unpacking some things that it's very much progress. It may end up in the trash bin one day. Like, it may never get read, But when I go back and read it, I think there's something here that I'm actually doing through this process. It's not the writing. Like, remember when Ashley was on and she said, I had to write this first book first in order to get to the book that she wanted to write. I think I'm doing that work.
That's a big deal, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love having these conversations because selfishly it reminds me, like, Nathan, I'm very much like you, where like I'm always like I want to help other people, the like empathetic, I feed off of other people, and you forget to take care of yourself. Yeah. And then you realize that like, oh, why am I so drained, or why am I not doing as good of a job as I know that I can do? And it's because your cup is empty. And so you have to remember, like, take care of you, do the work, go to therapy, and take the playtime too, because we're human. Yeah, that's how you recharge.
The playtime is crazy how important it is. I had no idea. I mean, yeah, like pausing to play helped me creatively. I can't even begin to tell you.
How do you play? I heard you do a whitewater rafting trip that turned into like a little bit of a thing. But what do you do to play? And rollerblading.
Rollerblading.
You sound fun.
So my Monday rhythm, I do a Monday rollerblading and a yoga on Friday. And that has been pretty...
Do you go to Shelby Park?
I don't go to Shelby. I go to... there's like nobody there. And so like it's over off of Two Rivers. But like I'll put my headphones in, and you might, if you saw me, you'd be like, "What?" I may have seen
you. I have some rollerblades.
You do?
I go to every.
All right, let's go.
When I don't want to talk to anybody, rollerblades, and then the air park.
I'm just gonna say
at the air park.
Yes. I haven't done the air park yet.
It's great. It's literally big, flat. It's
at
like
the air park. I know what you're talking
top
about.
Of Shelby.
Yes.
It's Cornelia's air park.
I know what you're talking about.
Totally
I'm just gonna
flat.
say, for
Very
grown-ups. Rollerblading, doing something where your body can move freely as an adult is huge. Side note, when my kids want to go to the trampoline park,
you gotta go.
Oh my God, y'all. It's so much fun. If you if you have the core strength to do while you're, to jump on a trampoline, it is so much fun.
And they have new ones with like obstacle courses.
Yes.
So it's kind of like that show Wipeout where you got to jump across different stuff.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
That is on my to-do list for play.
I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
It's so fun. So I do that. I will go to watch improv. I was just telling you, massively influenced by improvisational musicals, and just basically like putting myself in environments where I let myself have fun again. Right? Giving myself permission to be like, wait, is it worth it for me to go do? But look at my to-do list, Steve and Sarah. It's like, wait, when I pause to do those things, my ability to focus, my ability to like kind of get work done more effectively, and my creativity it just skyrockets when I pause to rest or play. And it's been shocking. My wife knew the whole time, but I needed a lot of convincing.
Sarah taught me something in podcast interviewing, which was like the ability to have space. I do this thing where it's like, hey, Nathan, it's good to see you. And you do this thing and you do this thing and pop you a question. You know, I definitely defended myself with questions for a long time. And then the answer would come back. And my worry would be, I got to fill this space.
Yeah.
But let's just have
empty
like
space.
a moment of silence.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's
we
okay.
survived it.
It's
It was
refreshing.
nice.
Yeah.
It was refreshing. You're like, is that okay?
I love it.
and play as a kid is our work. You know, not that work is like the end goal, but it's that we always have a child inside us. You know, we always have our own young version of ourselves. Like as I unpack my mind right now, I am right there in those moments still, you know, as somebody in my 40s that is like reliving that heart. Like it's a hard drive in there. Like I think it might all be in there. I have like a few repressed things, but it's like, I think it's all there.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. My little 9-year-old, she'll be like, Dad, we'll be like coloring together. She'll be like, Dad, you're thinking about it. Just thinking about it too much. Just do it. You know, just create it. And I had felt like pretty creatively stunted and was like wanting a creative project or a personal project a couple years ago, but like didn't have anything. And now it's like a volcano of like creative projects and desires to explore.
Sweet.
Because I've paused and making time for rest and play and still a lot of room to grow in terms of like, you know, a cadence and a rhythm. But compared to where we were like 3 or 4 years ago, it's shocking how productive rest can be. And this concept that like rest is resistance really has been beautiful as well for me to kind of hold on to.
And I bet that creative time feels more playful too when you did take that break. Feels less like work.
Yep.
More play.
Yep. Letting myself laugh. That's why, like, so the improv comedy, I'll go to just get like a dose of laughter, y'all. And it's funny because I kind of stopped. I went to ACA meetings, adult children of alcoholic meetings, for a year and a half pretty consistently. And then lately, instead of those meetings, I go to watch improv. I promise you they're as effective for me in this season, if not more, to just like letting myself laugh consistently for 30 minutes has been shockingly therapeutic.
Do you have a theory why that is?
Well, you probably know the neuroscience behind it, but you know, there's neuroscience, right, about like this commonality between crying and laughing and what it does in your body. But like there's some stuff that like physiologically and physically happens when your body cries in a similar way to when your body does a big belly laugh.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how much I needed to laugh more. But I went to that improv show like a year and a half ago, and I tell everybody, I was like, it's like it cleared out a clogged joy filter. You know, like my joy, I had a clog, right? And it kind of cleared it out. But so you know what it is. What is it?
Well, it's contagious too. So like laughing is contagious. Like you watch videos of people laughing, you're going to laugh eventually because it's funny, it's contagious, but yeah, it releases all the endorphins in your body and all the hormones, and you know, it just kind of refreshes you.
I don't know like all the neuroscience behind it, but I do know all of those moments are uncontrollable. We're out of control, and those are the best moments. Is that when you are in flow, in play, and I'm gonna make this about me.
Let's be real.
Let's keep like making this
Come
about
on.
me. So the memoir that I'm writing is called a phrase that my mom would say, which is for crying in a big fat bucket, is what she would say. Have you ever heard that phrase?
That's what she would say.
It's a weird phrase.
Crying in a big fat.
So we couldn't swear in our house. You know, it's like we were.
So she's replacing words.
She's
She was
replacing
like
euphemisms.
Yeah, she's like,
Okay.
you mother pretender. But it's like, for crying in a big fat bucket, is what she would say. And so we had 4 kids, oldest brother, 2 sisters, youngest brother. How many siblings? Did you have siblings?
I have 2 half siblings. Yeah.
Okay, 2 half siblings. We would absolutely painfully laugh in moments. And humor is connected to pain. You know, it's a thin line between love and hate. How true is that? Like, it's so true. It's the same thing. And the outcome of this book is, if I publish it and you read it, you will laugh extremely hard and you will cry extremely hard, or maybe I will when I read it. Because if we're being real, we can have all these false fronts. You know, I can definitely put up false fronts and masks, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work in the long term because there's always energy that goes into it, and so there's always a drawdown. And I make these deals where it's just like a compromise off of the authenticity, you know, based on any number of things, you know. But I think it goes way back. I think the reason you started talking at the very top of this about your parents is because that's where it starts oftentimes, you know. And it's the therapist joke. It's like, oh, well, tell me about your mother. Well, that's funny because it's true sometimes, you know.
Yeah. And when you said, like, you know, uncontrolled, that's exciting. But a couple years ago, that was not exciting.
Because
Right?
it's scary.
Yeah, like
Because you're being
3 or 4
authentic.
years ago, it's like, well, let's actually keep everything in control, which is all a facade made up anyway, right? But it's like, as I did more healing, as I, you know, went more into my journey, it was like, oh, actually releasing this idea of control is liberating, which does kind of go full circle back to sharing your story with others can be liberating, and especially an unpolished, imperfect version of it, because first of all, I'm unpolished and imperfect anyway, right? And so
And we all are.
And it's all, otherwise it's all inhale. It's all,
So what's the scary part of like sharing your story is I feel like what I hear from like younger people is like they're afraid of like the cringe moment of like oversharing, and it's like, oh, they just don't want to sound like, I don't know, if I share my story, am I being whiny about it, or am I like, I don't know, it's like, how do you get to that next level where you're not worried, you don't have that cringe feeling to share?
or or you don't have that cringe feeling, or you recognize that cringe feeling as none of your work, because that cringe feeling has to do with the other person's reaction, right?
And you're worried about what other people think.
What are they going to think about me? And
managing their experience.
Back to the idea of like freedom is the ability to be disliked. I can put it out there if I'm ready for that. And your reaction to it, that's your work. That's not my work. My work is to be myself.
That's good.
That's my work. Yeah.
In
As
group,
I'm just learning just in this moment.
We're like,
that's 100%. In group therapy this week.
You mean right here? Because I
in
feel
my
like
first
I
group
feel like I'm
therapy
learning that.
session this
This is
week.
session 4.
Without naming names and getting into specifics, part of the situation was I was really frustrated with somebody and had kind of felt accused in the session previously, right? And felt pretty like, sure of myself that I had done nothing wrong to warrant their accusation. And I was like really kind of getting up in arms.
Geared up,
Yeah. And the group there, the moderator, he was like, said something along the lines of, so, well, it sounds like that's some more work for you. And what revealed itself was like disappointing this person. Like disappointing anybody is my Achilles heel. Let's be honest, for me. Like if I've disappointed either of y'all, I probably couldn't have done anything worse.
Okay. You haven't in terms of my view, but
Okay.
just so you know.
But like this person had accused me and someone else of disappointing her. And I was like not having it. And I was like, that's a judgment statement. I've done nothing wrong. And in the conversation, I realized, like my dad is sitting right here, and he said that I've disappointed him. And now you're not even really recanting anything, which means that I might disappoint you again next week. And there's a lot of work still for me to do in terms of coming to terms with the reality that you might be disappointed with me again. And is that going to be okay? Like, can I be okay with disappointing you? Can I be okay with you letting you manage your experience if that includes disappointment? And that is difficult. And that's been part of this journey of like ripping the Band-Aid off for about a year ago when I started sharing my story online consistently and being like, man, I know it's good for everybody else. I've been telling everybody else they need to share their story. When am I finally going to do it? And it's been so liberating. And it's still moments where I will have like, kind of a vulnerability hangover, or feel like, oh, did I share too much, et cetera, et cetera. But it's crazy how freeing it can be.
I also hate disappointing people.
Yes.
I think there's a difference between disappointing, like you're saying, like, am I going to be okay with disappointing someone, and letting someone down when you've overpromised. Those are a little different. It's like, I try not to overpromise something because it's like, I don't want to disappoint you. But if someone's experience is just that you didn't do what they wanted, that's not on you. If you didn't promise that.
So you're unlocking, as we kind of wrap up here, what is maybe a tactical thing that you do to re-free yourself or to unlock yourself when you're in those moments of like, am I sharing too much, or I should share more? Like, what do you, is it therapy, or are there other disciplines or things that you said yoga?
To kind of stay grounded for my mental wellness
journey. Stay grounded, and then to continue on this path of like this freedom unlock that you're on. Yeah.
So I think there's like a few things. One, for me, the consistent sharing of my story has felt like a self-care element that I do, because it kind of quiets the voice down that says you don't have a story that's worth sharing, that says you have to have it all together before you can share, that says, your service doesn't matter, right? So actively defeat that minute by minute when I put myself out there and say otherwise, right? So that's one little thing. Getting up early in the morning and having time for myself consistently has been really significant. And so I'll have like a little meditation practice, a little body movement, a little journaling. Quiet time has been significant. Moving my body has been huge. So rollerblading.
While trampolining.
Extra points if trampolines are
Without
involved.
breaking anything.
Improv comedy, going to that. Eventually I'll probably want to be participating, but for now just
Okay.
observing that,
All right.
right? And being curious from the audience and just letting
Cool.
myself have fun.
Yeah, let's go to that sometime. I want to laugh with you. That'd be
I'm
just
ready.
fun.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's really great. And then giving myself permission to pause.
Okay.
Yeah, consistently, and then baths, and then making time for friendships. I think I'm realizing that my schedule is still too tight, too packed, and so I'm like wanting to make more time for these things that matter.
Yeah.
I wish I was taking notes. That was such a great list. We're going to watch this later and write that all down.
skip to the end. That was a great list.
Yeah, it was great.
That's a great list. Well, thank you, Nathan. Last question. Is there
Mhm.
one piece of content you're digging lately? It could be a new song or podcast or book or just artwork that you've done, something created. It could be on your list or something you've consumed.
Yeah, stand by for a second here.
It could be our podcast. I mean,
I'm a big fan of Steve Turney's LinkedIn game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a wonderful leader in this space, and I
Oh,
appreciate you
gosh,
always putting
thank
yourself out there and modeling vulnerability.
I do that.
Yeah, you do that. So if you don't follow Steve on LinkedIn, you should, or you could. I try not to should on people too often, but try not to take myself so seriously. I think Diary of a CEO, that guy, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
You know that Cooper, you know that Diary of a CEO podcast? I don't. Oh, okay. Big fan. I almost feel like I want to double check that's what it is, but he's having pretty amazing, consistent content. And then Words Are Vibrations. Big fan of that handle. And interestingly, yeah, those are the two that come to mind right now.
Okay.
Without digging.
I dig that handle.
Nice.
Words are vibrations. I'm gonna look that
Yeah.
up later.
James McCrae.
Oh, okay.
Do you know James?
Yeah,
Are
I
you
don't
familiar
know.
with him?
Yeah, familiar. I don't know James.
He's a rock star. Hopefully we'll meet him one day.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, Nathan, thanks for being on The Boost. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank
Such
you.
an honor. It's a beautiful full circle moment. You know, I felt so grateful to get to amplify what y'all were doing years ago, and then to see what you've turned it into and continue to grow it, and thankful that we get to share a conversation.
Yeah, thanks for elevating the work we do, and let's keep talking.
Awesome. Thanks so much, y'all.
All right, till next time.